So with all of our demos so far, we've kind of been referring to all of our lights in a standing position, not rigged on any kind of trussing or anything, but you've gotten up to the point of learning how to control your lights and make your scenes. So now that you've tested everything and have confirmed that everything works, the next step is actually wanting to tape everything down, because now you have a show to run. So I'm going to talk about some of the different kinds of methods that you can secure your lighting and cables for safe operation. I have this DMX cable, and I'll briefly touch on the proper way to wrap a cable. So you can take both the ends, holding it in this position, and you can pull it apart, and it comes apart, and all the coils automatically undo themselves so it lays nice and flat. And the way you do that is you take one of the ends and you wrap, but you don't stop there. This is called the over method, or just overhand method. And what that ends up doing, and you'll see it's starting to kink on you right now and not wanting to lay, you get a really nice clean line where they all look symmetrical with each other, and this works for the most part. The problem is this wants to telephone cord like a coiled cable, and it wants to stay in that position because there hasn't been a opposite version of this, so it stays wrapped like this and does this. And when you pull it straight, it doesn't want to lay flat because it's got all that extra weight of itself being coiled up. So the cable actually has to be untwisted. So everything you just did, you have to undo every time you lay the cable out. The proper method is the over-under. For every over, you go under. And I've seen many different ways of showing people of doing this kind of weird flip and stuff like this. The easiest method I found is actually just twisting it with your hand. So you take your over and you just rotate it through your fingers and get it to flip. Over, under. And you kind of get it under your wrist and feed it in. And there you have a nice completed, still uniformed cable that you can then wrap up. So these Velcro hook and loop ties, they come to hold the cables together so they don't unravel in your packs. But these can be a very good method of securing your cables together. It'll help you in the preliminary stages of taping down your cables to kind of bunch everything and hold it together. You can use that cable, you just get it to the other side. Here. And now you can wrap this around. You can do it a couple different ways. You can pull it tight and just keep those guys there, and now you have the start of your wires already nice and together. Or you can leave it somewhat loose and use this as like a wire loom and a guide, and it'll help keep your wire straight as you keep taping. You can tape a section and then move it over here, and it'll hold these together. Tape another section, and you can use this for doing your spots. So you can do spot taping. You should always try and strive for full coverage taping, one continuous piece, but spot taping has its merits. In areas of low traffic, you'll take your gaff tape, and you always want to use gaff tape, never duct tape. Gaff tape works really well. It does a really good bond, but it leaves no residue when it comes off, and that's good for taping against walls where you would be worried about ripping the paint off. So you can spot tape, which is getting a little section, and this is good for coming back to later. It helps place hold your lights. The distance will vary depending on what you're doing and how big you're running and how many spot tapes you need to do. This is a little shorter than I'd probably recommend. There's really no reason to leave this little you would want to leave quite a few more, maybe around the 3-foot mark, every 3 feet of spot tape. But it does depend on the cable and you know, its tolerance. It could be really wound up, and doing bows like this, and you need to close that gap to keep it tight. But then you can come back later with the large, full coverage, and you can do that in sections, or starting at one whole end, taping and pulling the entire roll over and working it over. You can get 2 people, one person to hold one end and float it over while you walk over, lay it across. They'll drop their end, and then you can lower yours, and then you just have to come around and start putting down the rest. When it comes to spot taping like this, it makes cleanup really easy, because then you just have to pull and walk with your first set, and usually the spot tapes don't come off, so they still hold the cable down, and you can get rid of and discard your main full coverage run, and then come back either by disconnecting the cables and lifting them right off the ground and grabbing the spots as you go, so they don't tangle around and wrap around your cable, which will make it much harder now to take off. Another good form of tape is white tape. This is still gaff tape. What you can do is you can make flags. You can write what you want on the tape, indicating what light it's going to or what outlet it's going to. You can write on both sides, and you can make little flags by sticking the ends together. So all that useful information is right there. That way when you plug it into the light for troubleshooting, you'll know right where the other end of this cable actually goes, because you can put a corresponding flag on the opposite end, and you'll know exactly what this one is. And when it comes to troubleshooting and problem solving, you'll know if you're having issue with this light or the next light in the chain. You can eliminate looking through your mess of cables that all just look like a bunch of black cables, and know exactly which one you need to follow to remove or replace. A similar method is using spike tape. So maybe you're not using that many cables, and detailed notes on a large flag isn't your thing. What you can do is you can take some spike tape, about an inch section, 1.5 inches, and you can wrap that around, and you can color code the ends of every single light with different colors. And then you can do the same to the other side. And that way, you'll know immediately where it ends and where it begins. So you can chase it when looking for outlets. Say you lose power, you'll know this is this cable and this is still the other end of the same cable. This is this cable and this is the other end of this cable, and you'll know where it goes to and where it ends. You can use that with a couple different colors for large different cables. It's really handy when you have a bunch of cables that all have the same leads and you don't know which one's which.